Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this: 1 hour a day, just 60 minutes. Yet within that hour lies the power to completely rewrite your future. Most people waste it without a thought and wonder why their lives never change. But the few, the rare few, who seize that hour, who use it to build their minds, shape their vision, and strengthen their discipline, they begin to move through life differently. That 1 hour separates the dreamers from the doers, the lost from the leaders, the ordinary from the unstoppable. And as the days continue to pass, you'll begin to see that this 1 hour has quietly become the axis around which your entire life turns. The person you were before you began this practice will seem like a distant memory, someone you outgrew, someone still caught in the chaos of distraction and noise. Because when you begin to live intentionally, you start to notice how much of life is lived unconsciously by most people. They move from one day to the next, reacting to events, emotions, and circumstances they never took the time to understand. But you, through this hour, are learning to pause, to think, to act from purpose rather than reaction. And that is where all true power begins. As you strengthen this habit, something beautiful begins to unfold. You start to realize that success is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. And that 1 hour is the forge where you shape that person. You may begin with doubt, with hesitation, with the feeling that perhaps nothing is happening. But in time, you'll see how each hour leaves a subtle mark, how each session compounds like interest in a bank account. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and suddenly you're walking through life with a confidence that seems effortless. You speak differently, you think differently, you carry yourself differently, and the world cannot help but respond. This hour begins to rewire your mind. You start to notice the thoughts that once held you back, the quiet whispers of limitation that told you what you couldn't do, what you weren't capable of. You see them for what they truly are. Habits of thinking formed by years of conditioning, not truth. You begin replacing them with new thoughts, thoughts of courage, of faith, of ability. And every day that you return to that hour, you strengthen those new patterns until they become second nature. You start to live from a place of expectancy instead of fear, of vision instead of doubt. In that hour, ideas will come to you, ideas that will surprise you by their clarity and depth. You may find solutions to problems that have frustrated you for years. You may discover new directions, new ambitions, or a fresh sense of meaning. Because the mind, when given quiet and attention, reveals its treasures. It is not that inspiration visits only the few. It visits all who make themselves ready to receive it. Most people are simply too distracted to notice when it arrives. And as you continue, you'll start to feel the shift in your energy. You'll find that you no longer wake up tired or restless. Instead, you rise with anticipation, knowing that this hour is not a task, but a gift. It becomes your anchor in a world that is constantly pulling people off course. When challenges come, and they will, you'll be prepared, because you've been training your mind to respond with calm and clarity. You won't be easily shaken. You'll meet each difficulty with a quiet assurance that says, "I've already won in here," pointing to your mind. That's where all victories are first achieved, within. You'll also begin to notice how much more efficiently your days unfold. That single hour of clarity will save you 10 hours of confusion. You'll make better decisions because you've taken time to think before acting. You'll move through your day with intention instead of hurry. You'll find that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances begin to appear, drawn to the person you're becoming. Because success is not a destination, it's a state of alignment between your thoughts, your actions, and your purpose. And that alignment begins during this hour. There will be mornings when it feels difficult, when the bed feels too warm, or the mind too weary. But those are the moments that define your character. Each time you overcome that resistance, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses, and with every victory, your self-discipline grows. You realize that discipline is not a punishment, it's the highest form of self-respect. It is saying to yourself, "I am worth showing up for." And when you show up consistently, life begins to open its doors. That hour can be used in many ways, some days in study, some in writing, some in reflection. But whatever form it takes, it should always serve one purpose: to move you forward. Some mornings you might read the words of great thinkers and feel a spark of understanding that changes how you see the world. Other days you might write your goals again and again until they burn in your mind like a living vision. And some days you'll simply sit in silence, breathing deeply, letting your thoughts settle until your inner world grows calm. In that calm, you'll find wisdom that no book or teacher could ever give you. And when you step back into the world after that hour, you'll notice how different everything feels. The same tasks, the same people, the same environment, but your awareness has extra. And here's the profound truth. The outer world always follows the inner. You cannot rise higher in life than the thoughts you hold about yourself. You cannot attract abundance while thinking scarcity, or success while expecting failure. But through this 1 hour, you begin to replace every limiting belief with one of possibility. You start to speak differently to yourself, not as a critic, but as a creator. You no longer say, "I can't," but rather, "I will find a way." And that simple shift in language, repeated daily, changes everything. Your energy begins to affect others. People will feel something different about you, even if they can't explain it. You'll become someone whose presence brings calm and confidence to a room. Others will seek your advice, your insight, your leadership. And it won't be because you told them what to do. It'll be because you became an example of what's possible. You'll inspire without speaking, simply by the way you live. There's an invisible law at work in life. What you consistently give attention to expands. If you give attention to problems, they multiply. If you give attention to growth, opportunities appear. This hour trains your mind to focus on what you want rather than what you fear. It turns your energy toward creation instead of reaction. And once you learn to master your focus, you've mastered the key to every form of success. You'll come to understand that the world doesn't need more people who are busy. It needs more people who are awake. Awake to their power, their purpose, their potential. This 1 hour is where awakening happens. It's the pause between yesterday's noise and tomorrow's opportunity. It's where clarity is born, where direction is found, where purpose is refined. And the person who commits to this hour every day is someone who cannot remain ordinary for long. As the months pass, you'll look back and realize that what once felt like effort has become effortless. You'll no longer have to push yourself to do it. It will pull you. The same way a magnet draws metal, this hour will draw you toward it each day, because within it you find peace, clarity, and strength that the rest of the day can't give you. And you'll start to see your life as something far greater than just a series of days and duties. It becomes a masterpiece, crafted one deliberate hour at a time. You'll notice that your goals are no longer distant dreams. They are unfolding realities. The things you once hoped for begin to take shape in the physical world because you've aligned your mind with your actions. You begin to live in harmony with your vision. And people will ask you how it happened, what secret you discovered. But you'll know there was no secret, just one simple, powerful habit repeated faithfully until it changed the way you think, feel, and live. And as this transformation deepens, you begin to understand something that few ever grasp, that greatness is not born in moments of glory, but in moments of quiet consistency. It's not the applause, the recognition, or the reward that shapes a person. It's the decision to show up each day and keep the promise made to oneself. The promise that says, "I will not waste this day. I will not let my potential remain untouched." That hour becomes proof of your commitment. It's no longer a habit. It becomes your covenant with growth, a silent vow that separates the ordinary from the exceptional. In this hour, you come face to face with yourself. There are no masks, no performances, no pretenses, just you and your thoughts, your doubts, your hopes, your dreams. At first, it may feel uncomfortable to sit in such stillness, to confront your own mind without distraction. But over time, that stillness becomes your strength. Because when you learn to sit with yourself in silence, you gain mastery over everything that once disturbed your peace. The world loses its power to shake you, because you've already met your fears, your worries, and your limitations, and you've learned to rise above them. You start to realize that time has always been the most precious resource you possess. Money can be earned, possessions can be replaced, but time, once gone, is gone forever. And yet, you begin to see that time, when used wisely, multiplies. 1 hour invested in understanding, in planning, in reflection, can save you from years of confusion. You begin to see that every successful person, Every leader, every visionary you've admired has found their way through the disciplined use of time. The difference between a fulfilled life and a wasted one lies in how one uses the hours that no one else sees. In that sacred hour, you are building not just knowledge, but identity. You are becoming the person your future requires. And as your mind expands, so too does your capacity to dream bigger, to think deeper, to act bolder. You begin to set goals that once seemed out of reach, and more importantly, you begin to believe that you can achieve them. Because this hour teaches you something vital. It teaches you that progress is not about perfection, but persistence. Each day you show up, no matter how you feel, you're moving closer to mastery. Slowly, life starts responding differently to you. Opportunities that once passed you by now seem drawn to your presence. The right people appear at the right moments, not by luck, but by alignment. You begin to attract what matches your inner growth. And that's the secret most never discover. The world outside you mirrors the world within you. When your inner world is ordered, purposeful, and confident, your outer world begins to take the same shape. Each morning or evening when you enter that hour, you're not just learning. You're aligning your mind with the frequency of success. You're conditioning your thoughts to expect progress, to notice possibilities, to act with conviction. You start to notice how most people's minds are constantly scattered, pulled in 1,000 directions, never truly present. But you, through this daily ritual, are training your focus like a lens, sharpening it until every action becomes deliberate, every word purposeful. You're no longer living by chance, you're living by choice. And choice is the true mark of freedom. Most people believe freedom means doing whatever you want. But real freedom means being in control of yourself, of your impulses, your habits, your thoughts. The one who cannot command himself can never command his destiny. That 1 hour, practiced faithfully, restores your control. It reminds you each day that you are not a victim of circumstances, but a creator of them. You begin to act instead of react, to respond instead of resist, to lead instead of follow. The beauty of this practice is that it doesn't shout for attention. It whispers its rewards quietly into your life. You won't notice the change overnight, but one morning you'll wake up and realize that you've become someone different. The small frustrations that once ruled your emotions no longer bother you. The doubts that once clouded your thinking have faded. You'll look at the same world, but through different eyes. You'll notice opportunity where before there was only struggle, lessons where there used to be mistakes, progress where once there was stagnation. That's the invisible power of compounding. Small actions, done daily, growing silently until they create extraordinary results. This hour, multiplied by weeks, months, and years, becomes the architect of your new reality. You may start it as an experiment, but it soon becomes a way of life. Because once you taste progress, once you feel your mind awakening, you'll never want to return to who you were before. Every book you read during that hour adds a new dimension to your mind. Every idea you contemplate strengthens your understanding. Every note you write, every plan you refine, every reflection you make builds layers of wisdom within you. And wisdom is the greatest wealth you can possess. It pays dividends far beyond anything material. Wisdom makes you calm in chaos, patient in adversity, and confident in uncertainty. It gives you clarity when others see only confusion. As the habit deepens, you'll begin to notice that your conversations change. You'll no longer find satisfaction in idle talk or gossip. Your words will carry weight. Your thoughts will have substance. You'll speak less, but when you do, people will listen. Because your words will come from understanding, not impulse. This is the quiet influence of a trained mind. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. You'll also notice a new sense of gratitude emerging. When you spend time alone each day with your thoughts, you begin to see how much you already have to be thankful for. You notice the sunlight, the breath in your lungs, the gift of another day. Gratitude becomes your default state, and that alone transforms everything. A grateful mind cannot be fearful, cannot be envious, cannot be bitter. Gratitude opens the door to abundance because it focuses on what is right rather than what is missing. And then something extraordinary happens. You begin to inspire others without even trying. Your discipline becomes contagious. People see the calm in your demeanor, the steadiness in your actions, the quiet confidence in your presence. They'll ask you how you maintain it, and you'll know the answer lies in those unseen hours when you were alone, building yourself in silence. You'll realize that the true leaders of this world are not the loudest, but the most disciplined. Over time, this practice shapes your philosophy of life. You start to see challenges not as punishments, but as opportunities to grow stronger. You no longer seek the easiest path, you seek the one that builds you, because you understand that adversity is not your enemy, it's your instructor. It's in the struggle that strength is formed, in the challenge that clarity is born. And when you've spent your quiet hour preparing your mind each day, no difficulty can truly shake you. You've built your foundation on solid ground. You begin to use that hour not only for learning, but for envisioning your future. You write your goals until they become etched in your subconscious. You visualize them with such clarity that they begin to feel inevitable. The mind cannot distinguish between vivid imagination and reality. It moves to fulfill whatever image it holds most strongly. And so, by impressing your goals daily upon your consciousness, you set unseen forces into motion that guide you toward them. Each day, your self-image strengthens. You no longer see yourself as the person you once were, limited by past experiences or failures. You see yourself as someone growing, evolving, becoming, and because your self-image determines your behavior, your actions begin to align with this new identity. You stop settling for less. You stop doubting your worth. You stop waiting for permission. You act, you create, you build. And in the stillness of that hour, you begin to realize something even more profound. That the greatest gift of all is not the success you achieve, but the person you become in the process. You see that the outer achievements are merely reflections of an inner victory, the victory over fear, over laziness, over distraction. You've learned to master yourself, and that mastery is the true definition of power. With every sunrise or every quiet evening spent in that sacred space, you step further into the life you were meant to live. You no longer chase fulfillment. It begins to flow through you naturally. You no longer depend on motivation. You are driven by purpose, and that purpose becomes the compass that guides you, steady and unwavering, through every season of life. You come to understand that this hour was never just about productivity. It was about becoming conscious. It was about waking up from the sleep of mediocrity and realizing that you hold the pen that writes your story. And every day you return to that hour, you write another paragraph of that story, one filled with intention, clarity, and growth. You begin to live not as someone waiting for life to happen, but as someone creating it with deliberate precision, one quiet, powerful hour at a time. And as the years unfold, you'll begin to see that everything you ever desired was quietly forming in the background of your consistent effort. You'll realize that this one-hour habit was never merely about achieving more. It was about awakening more of yourself. For within that hour, you were not just shaping your goals, you were shaping your character. You were learning patience when progress felt slow, resilience when results were delayed, and humility when success finally arrived. That hour was your teacher, your mirror, your silent companion on the road to mastery. You'll look back and see how that simple decision to dedicate one sacred hour each day became the hinge upon which your entire destiny turned. You'll remember the days you didn't feel like doing it, the mornings when your mind resisted, and the evenings when fatigue whispered excuses. But you'll also remember how every time you overcame that resistance, you built another layer of strength within you. And that strength became your foundation. It became the reason why challenges that crushed others only sharpened you. It became the invisible armor that carried you through uncertainty. Over time, the things that once felt difficult will begin to feel natural. Discipline will become your rhythm. Focus will become your state of being. You'll no longer have to force yourself into action. Action will become your nature. And that's when you'll understand the true meaning of transformation. It's not a single breakthrough, but a gradual evolution. It's the accumulation of quiet victories, the compounding of small moments of willpower, the slow but steady awakening of your potential. In that hour, you'll start to see that your thoughts are the architects of your reality. You'll notice how every idea, every emotion, every belief is shaping the life you live. You'll begin to treat your mind as sacred ground, because you'll know that whatever you allow to grow, there will eventually show itself in your world. You'll become careful with what you think, intentional with what you speak, and deliberate with what you focus on. And that mindfulness will separate you from the masses who drift through life unaware of the power they hold. That hour will teach you to listen, not just to books, not just to mentors, but to the quiet voice within. The voice that's often drowned out by noise, but which has always known who you are and what you're capable of. When you spend time in silence, you begin to hear it again. It speaks in intuition, in subtle nudges, in feelings that can't be explained, but always prove right when followed. You'll find that the answers you once sought from the world were already within you, waiting for the stillness to be heard. You'll also begin to notice that your pace changes. You'll no longer feel the need to rush through life, chasing the next thing, fearing that you're behind. You'll move with quiet certainty, knowing that progress is not measured in speed, but in direction. You'll stop comparing your journey to others because you'll understand that everyone walks their own path, shaped by their own choices. You'll begin to live with a deep sense of peace that comes from knowing you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to do to reach where you are destined to go. Through this practice, you'll discover the subtle difference between busyness and productivity. Most people mistake activity for achievement. They fill their days with motion, but not progress. But your 1 hour of clarity each day will sharpen your sense of purpose so precisely that everything you do outside of it becomes more effective. You'll find yourself doing in a few hours what once took you an entire day. You'll work less from effort and more from alignment, because when your mind is organized, your actions follow naturally. And then there comes a moment, a quiet, almost imperceptible moment, when you realize that you have become your own source of motivation. You no longer need external validation to keep going. You no longer need inspiration from others to take action. You've built up something far greater, self-reliance. You've become the type of person who doesn't wait for the right mood, the right circumstances, or the right timing. You create the conditions yourself. You've developed the inner authority that says, "I will make this happen." As this strength grows, it spills into every part of your life. Your relationships improve because you bring clarity instead of chaos. Your work becomes more meaningful because you approach it with vision instead of pressure. Your health improves because discipline in one area spills over into others. You begin to see the interconnectedness of everything, the way your thoughts shape your emotions shape your actions, and your actions shape your destiny. It all begins in the same place, in that quiet hour you give to yourself each day. You'll find that you start living more consciously. You begin to notice details that once escaped you, the tone of your thoughts, the energy of your surroundings, the subtle patterns in your behavior. You become aware of what drains you and what fuels you, what holds you back and what moves you forward. Awareness becomes your greatest ally because what you can see, you can change. And every morning or evening you return to that hour, you refine that awareness a little more. There's a point where the line between who you were and who you're becoming begins to blur. You start to feel lighter, freer, more certain. Old habits that once felt impossible to break begin to fade, not through willpower alone, but because your identity has shifted. You no longer identify as someone trying to change, you identify as someone who has changed. And that's when growth becomes effortless. When the new version of you becomes more familiar than the old one, the battle is won. You'll notice how your environment begins to rearrange itself in response to your inner growth. The right ideas will find you, the right people will enter your life, the right opportunities will appear at the right time. Some will call it luck, but you'll know better. It's resonance. You're no longer operating on the frequency of doubt or hesitation, but of belief and intention. Life doesn't give you what you wish for. It gives you what you're aligned with. And your alignment is forged in that daily hour of focus and reflection. You'll start to respect time in a way you never did before. You'll no longer waste it on trivial pursuits, idle conversations, or empty distractions, because you'll understand that every minute counts, that every hour holds the potential to elevate or diminish you. You'll begin to guard your time as the rare treasure it is, spending it only on what nourishes your mind and advances your vision. You'll stop saying yes to everything and start saying yes only to what matters, and that single shift will bring peace and power into your life like never before. People around you will begin to notice the difference. Some will be inspired, others may be uncomfortable, because your growth will challenge their comfort. But you'll learn not to shrink to make others feel secure. You'll understand that your evolution is not a threat. It's an invitation for others to rise. You'll keep walking your path quietly, letting your progress speak louder than your words. You'll learn that leadership isn't about commanding others. It's about mastering yourself so completely that others naturally follow your example. As your days unfold with greater clarity, you'll start to feel a sense of rhythm between your inner world and your outer actions. You'll realize that life flows best not when you push, but when you align. The same way a river doesn't struggle to reach the sea. It simply follows its course. You'll learn to move with the natural flow of your purpose. You'll stop forcing things to happen and start preparing yourself so that when opportunity arrives, you are ready to receive it. Each time you enter that hour, you'll remember why you began. You'll remember that you were not searching for shortcuts, but for mastery. That you weren't chasing comfort, but strength. That you weren't looking to impress the world, but to build a mind that could shape it. That hour becomes your reminder of who you are becoming and what you stand for. And with each passing day, that version of you grows clearer, stronger, more alive. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll wake up and see that the person you once dreamed of becoming is the person staring back at you in the mirror. Not because the world gave it to you, but because you gave it to yourself, one quiet, intentional, powerful hour at a time.